Hello, my name's Alec Mile of Miggle One, and this video is all about my supplier selection service, which helps clients make effective supplier decisions for web projects that they are looking to run. Most clients will work with the same agency for a number of years, so it's no surprise to find that when it comes to finding a new supplier or selecting some new technology, that this is something that can seem a little daunting. For me, on the other hand, it's a process that I've been through a number of times. I started doing a lot of this work back in 2017 when I stopped running Miggle as an agency, and at that stage had to help 25 clients find new suppliers to work with. And since then, it's been the main service that I've offered to my new clients. These clients come from a range of different sectors: local government such as Brighton and Hove City Council, central government such as the Office of Road and Rail, as well as third sector clients like the PSHE Association, as well as privately owned organisations. On my website, you can find a link to some case studies detailing work that I did over 2018 and 2019. That takes you through the process step by step and then has some key quotes from a number of clients who I helped out. Also, if you were to sign up to my mailing list, there's a more detailed white paper that goes step by step through the process of choosing a new agency. More often than not, when I run this sort of service for clients, I'll generally end up working directly with someone client side who is usually in either a product management or product ownership role. Now that I've been through this process a number of times, I've got a reliable set of documents that I can use, which I've been able to adapt and improve based on all the many different sorts of selection processes that I've run, given that no two selection processes are ever quite the same. In working with clients, product owners or product managers, I find that using Google Docs is a great way to work collaboratively. And so the starting point of any project that I do would be to set up a folder of Google Docs that we can use to work on, that will cover reports, the brief documents that we're going to make, anything around process, some notes, any research that we do. Of course, it's not possible to determine what sort of supplier is required until you're clear on what the requirements of your project are, how much budget you have, and what the time frame for delivery is, as all of these things may well impact the type of technology and the type of agency that you look to engage. I now have a large database of all sorts of different types of agencies that I've evaluated across a range of technologies, where those agencies will be anywhere from small micro businesses to larger agencies, and where those agencies have a range of specialities in terms of the software or solutions that they use, be that based on .NET frameworks, PHP frameworks, open source, proprietary or licensed software. I'm also always really keen to impress on clients that in finding the right supplier, it's imperative that the process that is run is a fair, open, honest and transparent one, and that the last thing that we want to do is fall foul of any procurement guidelines that might be in place. So, as an example, clients would be relying on me to identify whether the amount of money that they are going to spend is going to take them over the OJEU threshold, for example, as that may well determine where they have to publish the opportunity once they're ready to start their selection process. Consequently, I have a good understanding of all of the various frameworks, such as those on GovUK's digital marketplace, whether that's Digital Outcomes and Specialists or G-Cloud, to understand when and where projects may well need to be posted on GovUK's contract finder, or depending on whether there is a good spread of available suppliers on frameworks like G-Cloud or Digital Outcomes and Specialists, whether there are other frameworks that might be worth using as well, such as those run by businesses like MyTenders or Bravo Solutions. Obviously, the objective of any selection process is to find, more often than not, the single supplier that a client feels they can confidently work with. Once we know who that supplier is, I will help clients negotiate the best available deal, assuming of course that the procurement process in play allows for that. and will also help to make sure that contracts are signed at the right point, taking into account any mandatory standstill periods. And of course, for those agencies that are unsuccessful, I'll make sure that explanations go out to each of them, explaining why they weren't offered the opportunity themselves. But how do we get to that point where we're able to make that decision? Well, in general, we will have narrowed that down from an initial pre-qualifying questionnaire in which we would have looked for prospective suppliers to provide us with evidence as to where they have delivered something similar for other clients before. We will then score those PQQs and shortlist them, sending out an RFP to those shortlisted organisations. That RFP will in general contain the brief that comprises all of the client's requirements for that project. And more often than not, we will ask the suppliers of the best RFPs, which are scored against clear evaluation and assessment criteria, to come in and make a presentation to the client. This is a process that I will manage on the client's behalf, and once all the presentations are made, I will interview clients on who they feel is best suited to deliver on their project and help them make a safe and effective decision. Within the body of documents that I will use to help build out both the PQQ and the brief, which more often than not is incorporated within an RFP, a request for proposal, I will run a number of sessions with clients. One of the key ones is around stakeholder engagement, where I have a documented process as to how stakeholder engagement is to be managed, identifying on a stakeholder by stakeholder basis those that are either vital to engage, necessary to engage, good to have engaged, or for whom there is a courtesy to inform, and to also establish the roles which those stakeholders play in the project, whereby they might be a producer, a reviewer, an approver, or just somebody who needs to be informed as to what is going on. Having these standard documents enables us to make sure we capture any stakeholder engagement that has been planned to date, the points at which further stakeholder engagement is planned, and also the points at which further stakeholder engagement could happen. Finally, we make sure that we have a list of all the specific stakeholders, both external and internal, that we want to talk through before we specify our requirements. Stakeholder engagement is really important in terms of getting organisational wide buy-in, and a crucial part of the exercise in making sure that the client commissions the right thing to be built. During the process, I'll make sure we collate any other available research. I will often put together a range of demo videos from all the various types of technologies that we could be considering. If need be, I'll suggest that we run a request for information stage, whereby we might talk in more detail to suppliers and vendors of certain technologies, or whether we need to consider running something like a meet the buyer event, which can sometimes be really useful in terms of building early engagement with prospective suppliers. I will then generally manage the whole process within Trello, whereby we have an overview of the timetable, a to-do list of all of the things that we need to cover, a summary of competitive analysis, a list of all the strategic initiatives or problems that we are looking to solve. From the extensive database of agencies and suppliers that I have that I know can deliver certain solutions within certain budgets, I will propose an initial long list of suppliers that we can potentially send PQQs and RFPs to, or invite to an RFI stage. And then, of course, the process of making sure we capture requirements is an ongoing conversation, which usually starts from the very first conversation I have with a prospective client. In that respect, I find Trello a really useful tool for making sure that we can capture all of those details of conversations around requirements as they happen, alongside any pain points, alongside what we have to consider in terms of content strategy, what we might need to consider in terms of website reporting. That will give me some idea of what CMSs that we might want to evaluate. The same process would also be repeated for CRM if CRM is going to be part of the project as well. Again, I have some standard documentation on questions that we might ask to help validate a CRM. Again, looking at requirements and pain points, and then a list of CRMs to evaluate. While often the projects I'll run will fall short of a full digital transformation exercise, the insights that I capture might help inform such an exercise or build a business case to have a wider process around digital transformation. And I'll always make sure that I keep a note of what other software is used, what other tools that we might want to evaluate. Crucial then as well is capturing all of the various non-functional requirements, making sure that we have a good understanding of what makes for best practice. And because in pretty much every case, working with a new supplier means maintaining a relationship with an outgoing supplier and an outgoing solution, to have a clear idea of what business continuity looks like, as well as business as usual. From time to time, that might also involve us running a health check or an audit on the existing solution. I hope this video gives you a clear idea of how I might be able to help your organisation find the right supplier for their next web project. If so, do please get in touch with me so we can talk further.